Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Elena Matthews smiled as she watched Victor, her husband of 5 years, set the table for dinner. She thought their life was simple, peaceful, and happy. Every gesture from Victor, every smile they exchanged, seemed to confirm that the love they shared was genuine. Yet, behind this facade of happiness, something was silently breaking. This evening, like so many others, should have been normal. But as Elena went upstairs to get dessert, she heard muffled laughter behind the door of the master bedroom. Intrigued, she approached, and her heart froze. Victor, her husband whom she loved deeply, was in the arms of another woman. The scene was clear, brutal, unforgettable. Emotions surged through her: anger, disbelief, pain. The words she thought she'd heard, the tenderness, were nothing but lies. Her world was crumbling. Victor, surprised, tried to explain, but Elena wouldn't listen. The betrayal was complete. The next day, she was thrown out of the house. Victor claimed he wanted to settle things calmly, but every word felt like a stab in the back. Elena left with only the bare essentials, her heart shattered and her mind ablaze. Neighbors whispered, friends took sides. She found herself alone, humiliated, and invisible to those she had once called family and friends. But Elena was more than just a wounded woman. No one knew she was the heiress to a vast family fortune, a wealth carefully guarded as a secret. She wasn't merely a victim, she was a dormant force, ready to awaken. Beneath the pain, an idea was taking root: if she were to be betrayed and humiliated, she would make sure Victor's betrayal cost him everything, and that her own rebirth would be dazzling and irreversible. Rain fell on her small apartment as Elena, silent but determined, looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes shone with a new intensity. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of her revenge. Elena settled into her small apartment, barely large enough to hold her shattered memories. The modest furniture, the bare walls, everything seemed to remind her of her humiliation. But behind this minimalist decor, her mind worked tirelessly. Every memory of betrayal transformed into a plan, every tear fueled a fierce determination. She knew that impulsive anger wouldn't be enough. True revenge required intelligence, patience, and strategy. Elena began by rebuilding her image. She changed her wardrobe, choosing elegant yet understated clothes, and mastered her gestures, her demeanor, her gaze. She wanted the world to see a confident, mysterious, and powerful woman, but without revealing the richness that simmered beneath the surface. Every day, she informed herself about the world of finance and business. Elena contacted mentors, took online courses, and researched companies in which Victor had interests. She studied his weaknesses and alliances, identifying vulnerabilities she could later exploit. In the silence of her apartment, she patiently built an invisible armor around her personality, a strength no one suspected. Gradually, Elena became Elena Sterling, a name that resonated with respect and elegance. She began attending professional events, making a name for herself in the city's influential circles. Her calm demeanor, enigmatic smile, and growing confidence attracted attention. No one suspected that she was the same woman Victor had humiliated and cast out. But her transformation wasn't just about appearances. Elena was strengthening her network, cultivating relationships with financial partners, journalists, and entrepreneurs. Every contact was an asset to her plan for revenge. Her objective was clear: she wouldn't just show Victor that she had survived. She would make him realize, in the most humiliating way possible, that underestimating Elena Matthews had been his biggest mistake. That evening, alone in her apartment, Elena looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes, once filled with pain, now shone with a calculating gleam. The betrayed woman was gone. Only the woman who would take back everything that had been stolen from her, and much more. Under her new name, Elena Sterling, she entered the circles where power and money determined the fate of companies. Gala evenings, private conferences, strategic meetings, all became her playground. Her presence was discreet yet commanding. Her calculated smile and piercing gaze hinted at a rare intelligence, and very quickly, her name circulated among influential investors and entrepreneurs. Elena had studied Victor in minute detail. His plans, his business alliances, his trusted partners, every piece of the puzzle became a potential weapon. Carefully, she invested in companies that competed with Victor's, then in some of his faltering businesses, beginning to influence key decisions to her advantage. The first signs of disruption appeared. Contracts that seemed solid were mysteriously failing, partners were withdrawing without explanation, and Victor began to feel that something was slipping out of his control. But Elena didn't want to act rashly. Every move was calculated to maximize impact. She used her influence subtly, manipulating alliances, sowing doubt, but always keeping her own identity hidden. Victor saw her as a brilliant newcomer in the business world, never as the woman he had betrayed. Meanwhile, Elena cultivated an impeccable public image. Her philanthropic work and ethical investments bolstered her reputation. The media began to portray Elena Sterling as a visionary and principled woman. Everyone admired her success, unaware that she was hiding a story of betrayal, pain, and impending revenge. Every evening, when she shut down her computer in her now elegant apartment, Elena thought back to Victor and the mistress who had destroyed her marriage. A faint smile appeared on her lips. They didn't yet know that they were playing on her turf, that they were already pawns in a game whose rules only she knew. And in his mind, only one idea resonated: soon, Victor would understand that underestimating Elena Matthews had been his biggest mistake. Victor Matthews thought everything was going perfectly in his business. He was arrogant, self-assured, convinced that no one could threaten his empire. But right under his nose, Elena Sterling had already infiltrated his spheres of influence. Every decision he made now seemed tainted by inexplicable errors. His most loyal partners were beginning to have doubts, some were withdrawing their funds or postponing contracts. Elena never attacked directly. She knew that the most powerful revenge was subtle. She forged secret alliances, bought stakes in his companies, and influenced crucial decisions through intermediaries. Every minor setback Victor suffered was orchestrated to appear natural, but in reality, it was the product of Elena's strategic genius. Meanwhile, her reputation was growing. The media began to portray her as a visionary and philanthropic entrepreneur, a woman who knew how to transform pain into strength. Journalists mentioned her quiet but powerful success, while Victor, arrogant and blind, failed to realize that the woman behind this success was the one he had betrayed. One evening, during a crucial meeting with his investors, Victor learned that one of his flagship projects had just been cancelled. The partners, subtly influenced by Elena, had decided to withdraw their funding. Panic gripped his team. Victor couldn't understand how everything was falling apart so suddenly. Every meeting that followed turned into a disaster. His reputation as an invincible businessman was beginning to crumble, and rumors of a mysterious and influential woman behind these changes were already circulating among his competitors. Elena, observing from afar, remained impassive. Her revenge wasn't yet complete, but the first phase was a total success. Victor struggled, powerless, while she savored her strategy. The pain she had felt when she was betrayed was transforming into silent satisfaction. Victor finally understood that he had underestimated Elena Matthews. In her apartment, Elena reflected on the betrayal and humiliation she had suffered. Her heart, once broken, now beat with calculated force. The moment of public confrontation was approaching, and Victor would soon discover that the woman he had believed weak had become a formidable adversary. On the evening of the annual High Society Gala, the entire city seemed to have gathered in the sumptuous downtown hotel. Victor Matthews, confident as ever, admired his reflection in the crystal and gilding, sure of himself and convinced that nothing could surprise him. But he didn't know that the woman he had humiliated and banished from his life was about to rewrite history, under the name of Elena Sterling. When Elena entered the room, whispers immediately spread. Elegant, magnetic, every movement exuded confidence and power. The guests watched her, captivated, fascinated by her mysterious and commanding aura. Victor, at the other end of the room, felt a shiver of inexplicable unease. He didn't recognize her, and that was exactly what she wanted. The pivotal moment arrived when the gala's host brought her on stage to announce her latest philanthropic initiative. Before an audience of financiers, journalists, and celebrities, Elena calmly declared, "I am Elena Matthews, and I have been betrayed and humiliated by those I trusted. But today, I am here to show you that true strength is not measured by money or power, but by resilience and intelligence." An icy silence fell over the room. Victor paled, unable to believe what he was hearing. The mistress, seated beside him, stared at him in shock and fear. The media, present, began filming, capturing every word. Elena continued, revealing her wealth, her investments, and how she had discreetly taken control of some of Victor's projects, leaving him socially and financially vulnerable. The audience erupted in applause for Elena, admiring her strength and achievement. Victor, humiliated and furious, tried to speak, but no words came out. He finally understood that the woman he had scorned and banished was no longer the one he thought he knew. Elena gracefully exited the stage, leaving Victor alone with his shame. She had not only reclaimed what was rightfully hers, but had proven to the world that underestimating a betrayed woman could be extremely costly. Her revenge was not cruel, but perfect, public, calculated, and irreversible. The weeks following the gala were a whirlwind of news and speculation. The media everywhere were talking about Elena Matthews, aka Elena Sterling, the woman who had transformed her pain into strength and humiliated Victor Matthews in front of the entire world. Her name became synonymous with success, strategy, and resilience. Victor, for his part, could no longer lift his head. His financial partners, shaken by the public revelations and Elena's maneuvers, were turning away from him. His debts were piling up, his reputation was ruined, and he was now living proof of a warning: never underestimate a woman you have betrayed. Elena, for her part, was fully embracing her rebirth. She invested in projects that inspired her, created foundations to help those who had been betrayed or oppressed, and savored the fruits of her intelligence and patience. Each financial and social victory was a silent response to the humiliation she had endured, and yet she acted with elegance and dignity. One morning, as she strolled through her luxurious office overlooking the city, a message arrived: Victor requested a meeting. But Elena, now mistress of her life and destiny, smiled calmly. She no longer needed to actively seek revenge. Her triumph was complete. She simply replied, "My time is precious. I already have what you will never have: respect, strength, and inner peace." Victor left, humiliated but aware that he could do nothing more against her. Elena, gazing at the city stretching out beneath her feet, understood that she had transformed betrayal into triumph, pain into strength. She had proven that true victory lies not in the destruction of others, but in the reconstruction of oneself. And so, Elena Matthews, once wounded and hunted, became a living legend of resilience and strength. Her revenge had not only righted a personal wrong, it had elevated her life to a level that Victor and all those who had underestimated her could never reach.